All right, and welcome back to another episode of 2 Hours No Traffic, the Philadelphia New York Sports Podcast. Severely lacking on the New York side this evening, but there was nothing wrong with that. I'm your host, Philly Brandon, joined by friend of the show, Ryan Prost. You can catch him at RyanProst_FF on Twitter. And our very special guest this evening, not that Ryan isn't special, but we're joined by Brenden Deeg, writer at the Football Post and host of my favorite podcast named the Double Doink Podcast. Brenden, thanks for taking the time to get on with us tonight.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
So we're just going to jump straight in here because we're always going to do an Eagles cast. We kind of figured this a couple days ago, but, I mean, Malcolm Jenkins kind of gave us some news that we got to talk about. Hanging up the cleats after, a long career, but only 34, and he had a lot left in the tank. So, I mean, just what do you make of the move? Like, why do you think he hung him up now?
He caught me off guard, too. I didn't think he was going to retire. I actually thought he had at least 2 more years left in him. I thought he retired pretty early. I guess if you take a look at just his career, though, the snap counts probably outweigh a lot of people that are up in their 30s, right? Or like in their late 30s. He was always on the field. He played every snap. He was the captain of the defense. He played a position that took a lot of toll on his body. He had to kind of run around the field, play linebacker, play safety. So I think that had a lot to do with it as well. But great career, great player, and honestly, just probably an overall better person. He was a guy that if you talk to, I never got a chance to talk to him or meet him. But if you just kind of went through Twitter today, a lot of beat writers and people around the league had just nothing but nice things to say about the guy.
Yeah, I mean, what was that stretch? I want to say it was the year of the Super Bowl, and then the 2 years following, or something like that. We played 2.5, 3 seasons without missing. I know without missing a start, but I want to say without missing a snap.
I think he missed 1 snap over a 3-year stretch, I believe. Could be wrong though.
That is absolutely asinine.
Yeah. But
I mean, just add to another list of. I mean, the Eagles have had some phenomenal safeties, and I saw a couple takes today. It's like, oh, Malcolm Jenkins or Brian Dawkins. Like, I love Malcolm Jenkins. I think he's the best safety we've had since Brian, but I think that's a big stretch to make between the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a gap as well. I wouldn't put him in the Brian Dawkins land. Brian Dawkins is probably my favorite player of all time, so I wouldn't put him in that stratosphere. But it's as an Eagles fan, or just if you are an Eagles fan out there, it's pretty good to go from a guy like Brian Dawkins down to Malcolm Jenkins over. I guess they didn't kind of just directly pass each other, but they were pretty close. So it's been a good run of safety play for the Eagles over the last, I guess, 12, 13 years.
Yeah, I mean, and now we're kind of in this, a little limbo. Not that I don't love, Rodney McLeod. I think he plays really hard, but there's a steep drop off from where we were to where we are now. I know, Ryan, you follow the draft super closely. Is there any safeties that you've been seeing maybe line up to where the Eagles might be picking that could kind of fill that role?
I mean, Kyle Hamilton's kind of out there, but he's been slipping recently, so maybe he slips further than a top 10 pick. It's, the takes are the media is higher on him than the NFL is, so maybe he could be the next great Eagles safety.
He had a rough combine, did he not?
It was a rough combine, yeah.
I mean, I'd be fine if he slipped. I don't know if Tyrann Mathieu's coming our way. I mean, I know he posted a statement today with a green background and people went ballistic. But Brad,
odds makers went ballistic too. Like,
really?
I think he's now the favorite at some books to become an Eagle. I wouldn't bank on it. I think he's a guy that fits. I think he would be a perfect signing for us, or for the Eagles. Sorry, but I don't think it's happening. And then the Kyle Hamilton thing is really interesting. His tape. I've started to kind of dive in the draft over the last 2 weeks. I started with quarterbacks. I'm kind of transitioning. I kind of jumped just to overall defensive players, and Kyle Hamilton looks like the best player in the draft right now. From right now, that's a bold take, but his tape is awesome. The guy flies around. He doesn't run a 4.7 on tape. That's for sure.
No, I mean, and I'm like a diehard Notre Dame football fan, so watching them over the last 2 years, he made the jump. I'd be perfectly comfortable if you're the Eagles. If he's there, you have to take him. I don't know. I don't care if it outweighs.
You're taking him. If he's there at 15, you take him 100%. He's
not making the linebacker, D-line, anything.
Yeah, he's not making it to 15 though. He won't be an Eagle.
No, I know, but one can dream.
Yeah.
But he would look pretty good in the Kelly green that is circling back around in 2023. So how amped are you guys that we'll finally get in the jerseys I've been begging for decades?
Ryan, you can start.
Oh my gosh. I mean, how long has it been since we had the alternate uniforms? I forget exactly. I know we used to rock the yellow and blue
blues
ones.
Yeah.
The blue ones, yeah.
I think Vic and the Vic teams had the Kelly greens for a game, I believe, right? That game, his first game in Philly, or his first game with the Eagles, he was wearing Kelly Green because that was the game Kevin Cobb, Clay Matthews ended his career basically. Right? They were rocking Kelly Green in that game. I think that could have been the last time.
I feel like it was. It just feels like forever with the 2 years of the pandemic, and then all before that, just feels like forever. But I'm excited to get alternate uniforms. All those Instagram accounts with like every team. Like, there's gonna be some sick uniforms coming back. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the Bucks are bringing back the creamsicle too. I mean, not to kind of steal our shine, but they're also fire uniforms. But, yeah. I mean, do you guys have any Kelly?
I like the Kelly Green. That's my favorite Eagles jersey by far. I think it is.
If you had to go out and invest in a Kelly Green jersey, which Eagles player are you confident is going to be around long enough?
I had this argument with a friend. We were talking about who would be the longest lasting Eagle on the team right now. And it was a hard decision. I said Jordan Mailata. I don't know if that's the right answer, but that's the guy. I already have a Mailata jersey, so I don't know if I'd go him. But if I was an Eagles fan looking to get a jersey, that's the guy I'd pick.
I'd go Devontae Smith.
Yeah,
Devontae Smith. Yeah,
he's another good choice, or whoever we pick this year.
Yeah, Werner. I don't know. I mean, if we pick him in the first round, then I probably wouldn't, just judging by a first round track record.
Let me ask you that question: who would be the longest lasting Eagle on this team right now? You think it's Devontae Smith?
I would get the Devontae Smith jersey too. I like the Jordan Mailata pick because of the new extension, but offensive linemen are just you run the risk of like knee injury. Devontae Smith, I think, has a long career ahead of him. Mm-hmm. But I mean, another young guy who I'm hoping has a long career ahead of him in the Midnight Green. I'm all in on Sauce Gardner. I know he had a great visit with the Eagles. I've heard he spent like a couple extra hours over the initial like scheduled visit, talking to upper management, talking to the coaching staff. I mean, the guy was just an absolute lockdown corner in Cincinnati. I want to say he allowed 2 or 3 catches over 13 yards, which I mean, this is absolutely nothing. I mean, am I the only one? Are you guys in on Sauce coming to the Eagles? Or
I don't think it's going to happen. I wouldn't bank on it. I think he's going top 10. I actually think he's probably going top 8 or 9, and the Eagles probably going to have to jump. So I was doing the math. I was trying to think of the math earlier today. So the Eagles went from 12 to 10, and it took a 3rd round pick, right? Yep. To the Dallas. I'm assuming Howie's probably only going to want to do a similar trade than that if you're going to trade up for a non-quarterback. So you're banking on him at least falling to 13, maybe 12 at max. I don't think. Look, I don't have a lot of draft takes for it yet. I just kind of started diving in, like I said, 2 weeks ago. But I don't think Sauce is making it to 12. So
I don't think he is either. In my last mock, I have him at 4.
Yeah, there you go. So
I think he's going
away. Yeah.
The Jets and Giants are reportedly fighting over him. So Jets have the first pick, and they both have 4 picks in the top 10. So.
I think the Jets and Giants both have 2 top 10 picks, right? So one of them, I see one of those New York teams taking him.
I think he's gone by 4. Yeah. It's high, but
Philly Brandon, you just look so disappointed after.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry, man.
It's just I'm just toying with the idea in my head. We finally have one like lockdown corner. Like, man, if we get 2 on both sides, like there's a question I want to get to later, but I want to stay on this for a second. But I mean, we're kind of at this crossroads, like identity-wise, with the Eagles. So I'm just fascinated to see which direction they go. But just sticking with some of the guys we could target in the draft. I mean, Ryan, I know you spend like 18 hours of your day doing prospects and draft boards and stuff. So who are a couple guys that you keep hearing Eagles are in on this guy, or you think we should be in on?
Oh my God. Well, where do I start? Do I have to start with the linebackers? I feel like it's obligatory at this point to start with the linebackers.
I mean, if we want listens, I'd go linebackers. People love the linebackers in Philly.
Yeah.
Nakobe Dean and Devin Lloyd. Nakobe Dean's an athletic freak. I mean, there's a lot of debate about him. There's things out there that scouts say he's a 3rd rounder, but I think he's going to go in the 1st at some point. Devin Lloyd from Utah. I haven't got to watch his tape yet, but they're both solid. Eagles need 1. We got 3 picks. We need 1 linebacker that's going to lock it down. Both of them will. 2 impressive prospects. I mean, there's other places, but I don't think people want to spend a 3rd round or a 1st round pick on wide receiver.
Do you think Howie would take linebacker in the 1st round?
No.
One of those guys? I don't think it's happening.
I don't think it's happening, but I have to mention it, right?
I would love Nakobe Dean. He just seems like a player you slot in instantly. He's a defensive changing type of player. Just takes the leader role. Like, I'm going to go Micah Parsons level of what the Cowboys had with him last year, but potentially that type of impact.
Yeah, I'd like to mention Jordan Davis as well, defensive lineman from Georgia. The Georgia team's just full of athletic freaks, like insane. He posted one of the best combines I've seen in recent memory at the D tackle spot. So
that 40
I'd be on board with him.
Scary, right? That guy running full speed. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in that guy's way.
No, not at all. And Fletcher's only back on a 1-year deal. So
defensive tackle is a sneaky need.
Under
talked about need. I would love Jordan Davis. I think that's the guy. If they take him, my eyes are lighting up. He wouldn't get as much. Like, I think the playing time would be a thing in the first year, right? Because Eagles signed Fletcher Cox, which I also think that contract, that 1 year, $14 million contract, Fletcher Cox is also, I think, under one of probably the worst move the Eagles made this offseason. Like, I don't see what the point of giving him $14 million back when you already cut him was. I guess that's a whole different conversation. But I would love Jordan Davis. Just from what I've watched so far, the guy is awesome, and he just seems like not a can't miss prospect. But as long as he's healthy, he's going to cause a ruckus in the NFL.
Yeah. Do you guys think? Like, I know you're both skeptical about going linebacker first round. Do you think that how he looks at the two moves? I mean, obviously bringing in like an edge / pass rusher and Hassan Reddick, and then going out and getting Kaiser White. Do you think in his head he's like, all right, address that need, or like do you think he's aware we still need another one?
Oof. It's tough. I don't know.
I think he addressed it. I think in his head he thinks we're good.
I think what he did was smart because you don't have to draft for need now. Yes. Like you have Derek Barnett is back and Hassan Reddick are there. So realistically you could go into the end this year with kind of those defensive edge rushers and maybe another late round pick and a linebacker. Like you don't realistically Howie is not forced to take one there. And I think that's a good way to go into the draft. You never want to draft for need. You want to sign free agents for need and use the draft as best player available, right? That's how good teams weaponize free agency and draft is by going those routes. So I think it was smart. Like, it kind of reminds me, remember in 2020 when the Eagles kind of boxed himself in the corner. They didn't sign a free agent wide receiver and they knew they had to come out of the first round with a wide receiver and they just completely guessed wrong, right? But in the end, when you put yourself in that situation, it never helps your team.
Not at all.
No.
I don't think we pick at 15, 16, and 19. I think we trade one of those picks in the next year.
Agreed. There's no chance Howie makes 3 selections in the first round. I don't see it.
I don't think, especially with the moves he made in free agency, I don't think we're a 3 picks in the first round kind of team. Like we're not that desperate. We're not like a building team where we need 3 first round guys. We're better off getting draft capital, later on down the line. Especially because the team's always going to be hedging their bets at least a little bit at quarterback until they're absolutely certain. So building future draft capital, if you have to go make a move, seems like a good parachute to have. And
just taking 3 swings in like a 6 pick kind of break, like right from 15 to 19, I wouldn't say it's risky, but the odds of hammering or just hitting on those 3 picks are pretty low. And I think Howie knows that. So if you just kind of spread out your options, trade up potentially, right? If a stock's going to fall, something like that. But just sitting there and making all the selections, I don't buy that a GM would want to do that. And especially a guy like Howie Roseman.
No. You also completely eliminate the idea of like, you can't let someone fall to you if you're picking 3 times in 5 picks. Like there's no room to fall. I mean, I'd be fine if he bounced back to early second round, wait to see if a receiver falls out of the first who you think would be a difference maker, because the receiving room I still don't think is rounded all the way out.
No.
Zach Pascal definitely was nice to have, but he's in number 3 even on this team. I still think Quez Watkins is at 2. So do you guys think they address it through the draft? Do you think we're just going to ride it into this season with another pretty abysmal receiving core? Ryan, you can take this one.
I'll take this one. I mean, with the coach speak around Zach Pascal, I think we do kind of carry it into the season. But at the same time, this draft is really deep with wide receiver, and there's a clear need there. And I say we get someone in like the second, maybe trade up in the second for a Jahan Dotson kind of type. George Pickens, maybe. I keep picking from that Georgia team. It was just so good. But maybe one of those guys. I don't see him addressing it in the first round. Although the Philly fans might not be too happy about that.
I wanted one in the first round. I'll be honest. I do. I think they need to take 2. I think you need to draft 2, not high, but like in the first, 5 rounds, right? Like they need to add 2 kind of talented receivers in this room. Quez Watkins ideally would be nice to be your second wide receiver, biking 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 wide receiver.
I got froze.
You guys?
Yeah, you're on a loop there. It's like I was at a rave. Yeah, but I mean, Quez would be fun to have as like a change of pace second guy, but I mean, one, he's still kind of picking up on like the whole like consistency of the hands kind of thing. And right now he's more really of a weapon than he's someone you can count on like as your number 2 guy. I don't think Zach Pascal is either. I mean, I know the coaching staff is super high on him. I'm sure you've heard like murmurings about that, but like, is he as good as Sirianni really says he is?
I don't know. I did a 32-person mock draft last night, and I picked Drake London out of USC to the Eagles. I love his tape. He's healing up from an ankle injury. You should just go look at his game logs. He posted 1,000 yards in like 8 games. He's what the Eagles need at 6'5", tall, athletic build, and someone just to fill the threat in the red zone. Opposite Devontae Smith.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened there.
No, made for a hilarious little break.
But yeah, I think the Eagles should. I wanted them to take a receiver in the first round. If they're going to take 2, if they're going to use all 3 100%, if they're going to take 2, I wouldn't mind it. I don't trust Quez Watkins to be his number 2 receiver yet. I just don't. And I think if you compare Devonta Smith with another young guy, you got a really good core and building block, especially with Dallas Goedert at tight end for a young quarterback. If it's Jalen Hurts or whoever it's going to be, I think that's a great core to build around. And I do think receiver was an issue last year. I think it was an under talked about problem. Hurts didn't trust his receivers for whatever reason. The offense just didn't click with the passing game. Like it was basically Dallas Goedert or die a lot of the time. And I think that needs to be addressed. So I like a lot. Receivers I've kind of started to dive into as well. I'm a huge Treylon Burks guy. I think he's awesome. He's my favorite highlight tape so far that I've watched. I can't get enough of him. I would love to pair Devonta Smith with Treylon Burks. That would be like my dream scenario. But I don't know. It's hard to say how he's thinking with the receiver room, right? Like, is he thinking that the draft picks that I've made in the past have blown up in my face? Is he thinking that is he cocky going into it because he got a Quez Watkins late in the draft and Devonta Smith? I don't know what his mindset of what positions he's going to like going into the draft, but I think they're going to take 2 and pretty high. I'd say 2 probably in the top 5 rounds. I don't think they're banking on Zach Pascal to be a player this season. But you're right. The coaches are talking him up like crazy. It's kind of weird, to be honest.
It is kind of weird. But I'm a big Treylon Burks guy as well.
Yeah.
The Deebo Samuel comps are, a little – you can't bank I'm going to be Deebo Samuel, but the play styles are very similar.
Yeah. The next 10 years, every player that looks like that is going to be compared to Deebo Samuel. So we just have to prepare ourselves for that. But he's fun, man. Like, his highlight tape is fun. Like, this is a guy that, like, he reminds me of A.J. Brown. He reminds me of, like, almost an A.J. Brown on steroids.
I think we've been missing for the longest time, too. I mean, you figure that a couple good years that Alshon gave us before all the turmoil and all, I mean, we finally had a big-bodied red zone target. I love Devontae Smith, and I think he's going to be like a number 1 receiver for years to come. But you can't change your body type. He's frail and he's fast, but he's not going to win you a whole lot of 50-50 balls in the end zone.
So a little bit of breaking news here, guys. Sorry to interrupt, but Bruce Arians is retiring.
Whoa.
Todd Bowles is now the head coach of the Bucs.
Wow.
You could go a whole bunch of different directions with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Brady had to be looped in, right? You would think.
Yeah, I'm assuming so.
I know those two didn't always have the best of relationships. Because they're both very type A, but I really thought that I didn't think Brady would come back for I don't want to say rookie, but like an inexperienced head coach or a head coach without winning experience.
Mm-hmm.
But that's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I didn't. It was weird that he was really quiet this offseason, right? You didn't hear a lot from Bruce Arians, so kind of thought something was bubbling under there.
I'm surprised it's not Leftwich taking the job instead.
That's true.
He really likes Brady. They get along really well, so kind of stunned there, actually.
Are you more stunned at the retirement or who's taking over?
Who's taking over? Bruce Arians.
Yeah, me too.
He was done once a long time ago, if I remember correctly, and then Tom Brady pulled him back. But doubling back on Treylon Burks, I just want to say, if Eagles fans want to familiarize him with this guy, watch his Alabama tape. It's nuts. 8 receptions, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that game is insane. And it's funny. He ran a 4.5 at the combine, right? And everyone was calling him slow and stuff. It's like, you just watch that Alabama game. The guy's not slow. Like he's got game speed. I don't know. I think everyone's overthinking this. Like I learned my lesson in 2020 when I was scouting receivers because I was
You a Rager guy?
I was a huge Rager guy.
Same.
I really liked him a lot,
Mhm.
and I kept telling myself the production's not there because the quarterback play.
Yep.
And I kept making excuses for it. And now what I've learned from that year is production over everything should be looked at for receivers. If they could produce a lot in the SEC at a junior, if you're a junior and you produce in the SEC, you're most likely going to transition that to a production in the NFL. So that's what I've learned. Burks had over 1,300 yards this year, something like that. Against Arkansas had the hardest schedule in the country this year. So they played all the good SEC teams, and Burks lit all the top corners up with, I guess, a mediocre quarterback. So he just checks every box for me.
And just
But what was it with Rager? Didn't he have like the lowest completion percentage by a quarterback?
Yep. It was like the worst passer rating throwing to him, or accuracy rate, something like that. His drop rate was high, and then everyone considered that to the quarterback. Like, there was a lot of excuses for him, but his tape looked awesome. But when he there were just the production excuses were there, and I bought into those. And this year, I'm not buying into that. Last year, I didn't either. Like, that's what I've learned for receivers. I learned my lesson in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, if you have guys dominating in the SEC, I mean, I just like that we're drafting SEC guys now. Like, I mean, Devontae Smith was a big breakthrough because for the longest time, I thought Howie thought he was the smartest guy in the room, going and get like the J.J. Arcega-Whiteside from, I want to say, what was that, Stanford, yep. Stanford, then Jalen Reagor from TCU. Like, don't overthink it. Go get the guys who are dominating the best corners that went before him in the draft. Like, it just seems logical to me. But he finally got it together.
The J.J. Arcega-Whiteside thing's funny. Like, I still remember where I was when I was on my phone. I was in line at a grocery store, and I saw that pick, and I was so mad that they didn't take DK Metcalf. Like, I still remember like being angry with the lady I'm handing my groceries to. Like, it's one of those, like you know where you are, sports moments. For some reason, that Arcega-Whiteside pick is in my brain.
That was me with Jalen Reagor. I was on a podcast and had a complete meltdown during the podcast. We couldn't publish the episode. There was it was just laced with too many profanities.
Well, you were the right there, because I completely whiffed. That was my biggest one of my biggest draft misses, or just football analyst misses in my life.
The vindication wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. It's one of my biggest misses as well. So I understand the feeling.
Yeah.
All right. So the big question I wanted to especially get Brendan's point of view on. Ryan, you and I have talked about this a bunch, but not this season, actually. So who are the Eagles this season? We spent all of our money in the offseason building, a pretty vaunted defense, at least up front. And then, you double down on bringing Hurts back. We were a run-first team last year. So what is this team's identity? Are we a running team? Are we a defensive line team? Where do you see them leaning? I'll let Brenden start off.
So I thought Howie Roseman's comments were pretty interesting at the owners' meeting. He doubled down on what his and Lurie's take has been kind of since Lurie's been the owner, is they want a top 10 offense. That's how they look at football. And I think it's the right way to look at football. Like, I think there's a stat, 18 of the last 20 teams to make the Super Bowl have had a top 10 DVOA offense. The Eagles finished 10th, I believe, this year, right? So that's how you win in football, is have a top offense. But I also think part of it is you want a top 10 passing offense as well, right? Yeah. That's how you sustain success over a long period of time in the NFL. So have a top 10 passing offense, and then you let the rest figure it out itself. And Howie Roseman said that at the owners' meeting, that I want to have a prolific passing offense. I think that's going to translate to this year. I think they're going to try to throw the ball a lot more. I don't think they're going to come out. I don't think they're going to run that offense that they did the second half of the year, where they took off and they were kind of just running over lesser ranked teams. It was a great offense to watch, but you saw what happened when you hit a defense like the Bucs in the playoffs. If you get down early, you kind of start panicking. You have a couple 3-and-outs early. Before you know it, you're down 17-0, and you've thrown 2 passes. I don't think they don't want that to happen again. So I think that this is pretty much Jalen Hurts put up or shut up here. Like, he's got to prove that he's progressed as a passer. So I think they're going to come out. I think you're going to see a similar style offense that we saw in Atlanta week 1. Sort of like that. Like, you want a little mix of the run and pass, but not going to be like the run heavy first offense that you saw over the second half of the season. Because I think this is almost I know last year was a tryout year for Hurts, I guess, but I think this year is going to be even more of a tryout year first. They want to know what they have in the guy. I don't think they fully know either. And I don't either. I don't know what Jalen Hurts is yet. And I think that's basically what this year is going to be. And it sucks because that's what it was last year for a lot of people. But I thought he progressed enough where he bought himself one more year. The team wasn't really good enough to just go like what Denver did. Let's go throw out a bunch of draft picks to go get a Russell Wilson. I don't think the roster was there yet, and I think the roster will be there in 2023. So it's pretty much, is Jalen Hurts the guy or not? And they're going to want to find out, and they're going to make him prove it to them. And it's not going to be like the hold your hand offense. We'll walk you through this. We'll run it a lot the second half here. They're going to throw the ball. And I thought what Howie Roseman said at the owners meeting was pretty interesting, because that's what they've always thought. That's what Lurie has always thought, how you win it in the NFL. So
do you think they're a better team with that offense, letting Jalen Hurts sling it maybe 25, 30 times?
It's hard to say. I doubt it. I don't think so. I don't trust Hurts enough as a passer yet, but we'll see. Like, quarterbacks make improvements over one offseason. It's going to be really interesting to see how he looks. Like, everyone's going to have binoculars zoned in on Jalen Hurts for the first 6 weeks, right? Like, has he improved? How does he look in the pocket? Is his feet set, right? All eyes are going to be on him. I don't know. It's going to be if he progressed as a passer, yes. If he didn't, no. And it's tough to say.
All right, Ryan, the last minute's yours. What do you think the Eagles are going to be 2022?
Oh gosh. I mean, I agree with Brendan. I mean, Jalen Hurts has to pass the ball. I mean, I think how we might trade a pick in a 23, like I said, and look for Stroud or Bryce Young from Ohio State and Alabama to replace Jalen Hurts and take this team to the next level. So Jalen Hurts has to show something. So I think they're going to design more looks for him to throw the ball this year. I think that's what the Eagles are going to try to do, and hopefully it works.
Hopefully it works. But I think we lost Brenden again, unfortunately.
No.
So we're about to wrap this one up. We want to thank Brenden for joining us. Hopefully he can pop back on for the closeout. But if not, you can catch him at Brenden Deeg. That's Deeg NFP on Twitter. He's a writer at Football Post, host of the Double Doink Podcast. Promo code DOINK to get discounts on Coolbet Canada, Manscaped, and BetterHelp. Ryan, you can always catch him at RyanProst_FF for all of your fantasy football, draft prospects, and just general football nerdity needs.
Yeah.
I'm here every week with you guys on Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in, and see y'all later.
See yous.